Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Riverdale recap. I am Matthew, of course, joined by my wonderful co-host and best friend.
Callum.
Hey man, lovely to see you. So, on today's Riverdale video, we are reviewing what is, I suppose you could kind of look at it as the end of Riverdale as we know it, because it is the graduation episode where Archie and the gang leave high school, and it's probably one of the biggest episodes in Riverdale's history. I would say. Would you sort of agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. We've talked about how this, the opening of this season is really just, progression and a wrap up of last season. This would have been the finale of last season. So yeah, it really feels like they were trying to do something different here, and it comes across that way. And it really does feel like the end of an era. Especially as you said off podcast. With the flashbacks they pepper throughout. It really feels like they're trying to culminate something. And then
It absolutely does.
and we talked about how this really just feels like it could have been the last episode ever with a tiny bit more runtime,
Sprinkled
a bit
on,
more
yeah.
development of where
Yeah.
they go in the future. But I think just knowing that they leave Riverdale and that they're happy, I feel like every loose end was really tied up here.
Agreed. And I think, but just before we hop in, I think with this being, the final episode of what would have been season 5, it does have a definitive sort of, conclusion of quality to it. And of course, with this recap, we recording this on the day where season 6 has just been announced. So if you're a Riverdale fan, I'm sure you'll be glad to hear that as well. But one of the things in this episode I find quite funny. Well, actually, I'll start with the positives. Actually, I don't want to critique it too bad at the start. One of the things I love about this episode is it brings back characters that previously haven't been in it for a while. You've got Reggie, Sweet Pea, Pop, Fangs, Principal Weatherby. It feels like classic Riverdale for once. It just feels like home. It just feels like the TV show that we've been watching for years with all those classic characters, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think I sort of watched the promo for next episode, and people think that that this is an indication that they're trying to move back to the status quo of season 1, where the quality was actually high and the cringe wasn't too high.
Mm-hmm.
And I do really see that. But are you do you feel that's a mistake? Like, do you feel like I have to imagine that the majority of people are watching this show because it's terrible?
I know it definitely moved away from the cringe, haven't they? It's a double-edged sword, I think, because it could be a mistake in regards to viewing figures. I was looking on Wikipedia and stuff for the viewing figures in the show, and I'm surprised it actually got renewed because the viewing figures are slowly going down actually. And maybe that's because the quality is increasing. Like, it's kind of the opposite you sort of expect with a TV show. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you'd expect if the quality increased, the viewing would increase. But I do think, like we said, with season 6 being renewed, I think season 6 will be the final one, if I'm honest. I really do. But I don't know if it is a mistake. For people like us, it probably is, because we have less to talk about, less to laugh at. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so. And I think last week's episode was a bit funnier, and we see sort of a trickle over some of the storylines here. Namely being the jelly bean was revealed to be the auteur, and at the beginning of the episode, we see Jughead and his dad questioning whether Jelly Bean is okay. She was mentally torturing people. Why do you care about her whatsoever? Put her in
Yeah.
prison. Like, she must have committed a crime or two.
Dude, FP he's the salt of the earth, that man, isn't he? He's a really lovely guy. It kind of got me thinking about, out of every character in the show, I do think FP has the best character development just from where he started.
Yeah, I think so.
100%. He's one of my
Because I
favorites
mean,
in the show.
he's gone from this gang leader who was involved in drugs and helped Jason Blossom help get rid of his body. So he committed some horrific crimes, but now he's the life and
Family
soul of the
man.
show. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, he is of course leaving the show, which we found out last season.
Got
Yeah,
it.
a
Absolutely
single
got
tear
it.
for FP because
FP, man.
and have you seen the really weird video with him?
I haven't, no. The actor,
He was
Skeet.
doing a with Skeet Ulrich. Like, he was doing a Q&A in a bathtub with his girlfriend. Sorry, not a bathtub. Sorry, a hot tub. So they're just like drinking champagne. And he was clearly, like,
Drunk.
allegedly drunk or high. Like, there was clearly
Classic
he was
FP.
he was off his nut, and like,
Dude, I
he's
love
just
it.
like, so someone asked, why are you leaving Riverdale, and then he's like, he says that he got bored creatively, but it looks like from the way he says it, like, he's like cackling as though he's taking like a steaming dump on the entire show. So I mean, I just felt
I
so
love
bad because I
FP.
love the character so
I
much,
love the
but
character so much.
that was just an unappealing actor moment for
I
me.
love the character so much. You're right, I really do. And yeah, I mean, in this episode as well, there's a couple of quotes I have here that I found were quite funny. One is FP, namely the character talking about. He goes up to Hiram's house and says, "You need to reinstate Mr. Keller as the sheriff," and Hiram just blatantly accepts that, even though he's the mayor. And it kind of got me thinking, like, surely there's a more of a process than just the mayor selecting the sheriff. Surely it has to be like a democratic vote in the council or something. But Hiram can make it happen, apparently, can't he?
Yeah, I guess not. Yeah, we'd seen FP as the sheriff before. I feel
Yeah.
like that would have been a more meaningful reinstation. I think that he probably did. Even though he was sort of in Hiram's pocket, I feel like he still did. Better for the town than he did. What was
Yes.
the reason that Sheriff Keller was taken out of his position anyway? Because I remember he
I can't
was
remember.
having an affair on his he was having an extramarital affair,
Josie's
but
mom.
yeah, but that wouldn't really play into his profession. So I don't really. There's nothing about the show like the early seasons that I remember whatsoever.
There's crimes that
I
I've
really just
forgotten about.
remember. Yeah, 100%. Like you forgot about Sheriff Mineta, I think, until I recently brought it up, and you were like, "Oh, that dickhead."
Sheriff Mineta. But yeah,
And, of course, the episode surrounds the group's graduation, and quite honestly, I don't understand how you don't know until the last day of school whether you've graduated. If it's that changeable until the last day, how do people even get into college?
dude.
I think it's mostly just based on your SAT scores. But then, what's the point of the senior year?
I know, and
Because you're attending classes and stuff. Like,
yeah, I know.
how can you?
It's crazy.
Because I mean, Jughead was already accepted into college, like as in he's definitely going. So if he was on the day told that he couldn't graduate high school, does that mean that he is still able to go to college? Like I don't get it.
I don't get it either. And we see Archie's mom says to Archie, "Oh, don't worry about it, Archie. You'll graduate. You've been applying yourself a lot lately." I kind of thought, has he really? Because he's either any scene of his, he's either been in El Royale Boxing Club, he's been a vigilante, or he's been training for the Naval Academy. There's really never a scene with him in school these days. But anyway, it kind of got me thinking.
I mean, I suppose that's the case for every character in the show. They're off, busting crimes.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. And we've spoken about the graduation there. I thought it would be cool if we shared our graduation story, because it's kind of weird to think, like, at this point we're technically older than the Riverdale characters are in the show. Do you know what I mean? So it's really weird. It's really weird. I certainly don't feel that way. But I mean,
we don't exactly have official graduations here. In America, you get a diploma for for every grade that you advance in. Really, in Crazy Stupid Love, I think we talked about the sort of ridiculousness that he's moving from like the 10th to the 11th grade or something. Which here is just moving.
I have no idea how that works.
I think like year 10 to year 14. Sorry, year 10 to year 11 or something.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a I mean, I don't think we need them as frequently, but I would have liked a graduation, as recognition of, finishing, the equivalent to high school here, because it's a bit of a recognition. And I know some people, of course, don't go to university, which is the only graduation that we get here. So so some people don't really ever get to experience that. Which I mean, we didn't even get to experience the end of school.
Yeah, I know. And on that topic, like, it kind of really was a bittersweet moment, because literally the day after we graduated, it was national lockdown in the UK. So it was, and we kind of knew it was going to be a lockdown, didn't we? So we kind of had to make the most of our last day of freedom. But I mean, yeah, man, it was a really sad day for me as well. But like, I remember I really was just bawling my eyes out in primary school whenever I left primary school, more so. Like, I was just crying after primary school. I loved it. I had a great time. But with high school, I think I was kind of glad to get out of there. But looking back now, I wish I would have one more day back there. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, if you want to see what I was like in primary school, it was this. I was fucking jazzed. I couldn't wait to get out of that place.
I love it.
And when it came to secondary school, I was elated that we didn't have to sit exams. But then, of course, there was the horrific connotations of what was happening in the rest of the world. There was the context that you had to consider, and it was a tragic moment. And many people in our school, were of course very emotional about the fact that they were leaving. I was thrilled to be done with school. But as soon as I started university, and we had the least structured university experience that you can conceivably have, because it's already not really strict, but having like video calls that you could like choose to attend or not was just I just felt thrown into disarray, and that was the moment where I was like, I miss school.
Yeah, I know it's one of those things, but like retrospectively I really do miss it, just classrooms all day, because obviously we used to see each other a lot obviously pandemic aside, we used to see each other every day in school, like 5 times a week, sometimes 6 if we recorded a podcast on the weekend. Like without that, it's a bummer. It really is. And obviously, there's teachers there that I really miss as well.
Me too, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, here it was really great to see some of the returning characters like Reggie, Sweet Pea, and people like that. And it kind of got me thinking. Do you think that the TV show, because it's going to be a 7-year time jump, or sorry, time jump, 10-year time jump, where Archie's in the military. He's I saw a promo for the episode. He's like he's a war hero. He strolls up to Riverdale in like his army uniform. He's a changed man. He's got like a shorter haircut. Anyway, Betty's an FBI agent, Jughead's a writer, and Veronica's just married. The promo's the promo's like Archie's a soldier.
Her biggest accomplishment, a man.
Archie's like the promo's like Archie's a soldier, Betty's an FBI agent, Jughead's a writer, Veronica's married. But I kind of got me thinking. Do you think they're just characters like Reggie, Sweet Pea, Fangs, and Kevin? Do you think they'll ever appear again, or do you think they'll be less frequent? Because it's not.
I'm confident Sweet Pea's gone. I think Reggie may pop up, and I think the show wants us to care about Kevin and Fangs, and they never have a moment where they break up. They're the only couple in the show who don't really get a moment to do that. So I don't know. They may well come back married.
Is Joaquin dead?
Yeah, Joaquin got like stabbed in the prison the Archie was at.
Oh yeah, what about Monroe? What happened to him?
He went on to university or something, I think, because I think he was held back a year or something. So I think he went on to Notre Dame.
Yeah, I wish they would have brought him back, and then Archie could have repeated school instead of going to the military. The military didn't really sit right with me because it was such a last minute thing in this episode. I didn't like it at all.
Yeah, and well, I suppose we'll talk about our expectations for next episode and the rest of the season soon.
Yeah.
But you mentioned before that you don't really see a lot of Archie going to classes. What grind has he exactly put into keeping himself in education?
Mm-hmm.
But my question more is we never see any of the characters attending classes or anything, which I suppose would be a boring thing to watch. On a weekday we see them going throughout the day, going to solve crimes, not going to school.
Mm-hmm.
And how exactly is Betty the valedictorian? She's about as smart as Archie and has attended school as often. Give the thing to Veronica.
Give the thing to Veronica. Exactly. Veronica is my favorite here. Although Betty, we see that she reveals the truth to Jughead. I mean, they decide to fix their problems by sleeping together, which is always a classic thing to do in Riverdale. I mean, there's a lot of. I mean, I feel like the Riverdale, the show creators, they feel like they're making up for lost time because they haven't had a sex scene in a while. So they're just like, have to an episode, sure. Have to an episode. Oh, it's mad. I don't know, man. I feel like this episode, although it was probably my favorite episode of the season so far, I think a lot of it doesn't sit right with me in regards to the Betty revealing the truth to Jughead, Archie and Veronica having sex together, but she gets married in the future. It's weird. Archie being a soldier now. I don't know. The show really, I think it really wants us to feel like Cheryl and Tony are part of this gang. It's not a gang of 4 anymore. It's a gang of 6. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Like, I kind of preferred it when it was just them doing their own thing. As a couple.
Yeah, I think Cheryl's too fundamentally unlikable a character to gel with them.
But do you think they are making that a gang of 6 now? Because obviously Tony is the character that introduces everyone, like, Archie to Riverdale again. So do you think they are trying to make it a 6? I think they are.
I think absolutely, because of course the two of them represent sort of the key LGBT Q plus representation within the show. We have Kevin and we have Fangs, but they really don't make a significant impact. And I suppose Tony and Cheryl are considered like the more glamorous couple within the season. So I think
do like them.
So to be fair, yeah, I think it is fan consensus that they want to see more. So they've been putting more screen time in for those characters, but they haven't enriched the characters so that they are actually involved themselves in the story. They're always given their own side story, that they're never part of the main action, which sort of makes them feel disconnected, and it kind of makes like it makes it feel like they're doing it just to appeal to fans and not to actually construct a good story.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. I mean, I absolutely agree. Absolutely.
And what I found funny about the episode is the fact that Reggie graduated and Archie didn't. Like, that must be a swift kick in the balls.
I said Reggie's my favorite. I'm so glad he graduated. And one thing I did find really sweet is the time capsule scene where you see, I think Veronica puts in a Pops menu, Betty puts in a blue and gold article and a bobby pin, Jughead his hat, which I thought was really cool. And then we obviously see Reggie puts in a football, and yeah, I think Archie puts in a hammer and something else. I thought the hammer was such a strange choice, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, whenever he pulled that, he was like, it's from my dad's toolbox, but I thought he was going to say, I caved some dude's head in with this.
Yeah, I thought he was going to put it as like his Red Hood mask or whatever it is that he has, something like that. But I don't know. I thought it was. I really hope Reggie doesn't go away. I really like Charles Melton here. I think you're right. I think Sweet Pea's probably gone. Obviously, Josie, I'd imagine, is not coming back.
Well, I don't know, because she left the show to sort of be a key player in Katie Keene, and then Katie Keene got cancelled. So I feel like you know, the 7-year time jump allows those shows to line up. So I feel like we may see more of Josie if they, because I assume Veronica eventually moves to New York after going to Harvard. So you know, because I think she meets her husband in New York. So I think there's potential crossover there.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see, like, you know, and I don't want to jump ahead too much, like, into our future predictions for the season. So I'll actually leave that point until we do that. So I'll let you sort of, you know, say your piece on, you know, the episode specifically, and then I suppose we'll talk about predictions or hopes.
Well, you know, there's sort of a problem presented here, you know, where, you know, they're just trying to naturally, you know, get FP out of the show so that Steve Ulrich can be happy and, you know, leave the show.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, they create this, you know, really difficult concept, you know, for how are we going to get rid of them, when I think clearly the easiest solution, like, for their situation is to move Jelly Bean to Iowa to be with Jughead and not back to her mom, the drug kingpin.
Yeah, because her mom, like,
surely if, like, you don't want Jelly Bean away from Jughead, take her to Jughead.
Yeah, oh, completely. Like, Jelly Bean's a character I've never really been fond of in the show. I'm surprised he's actually stuck around, to be honest. The character, I'm surprised they didn't, like, just, you know, just axe that character off completely. But I don't know. I do agree with you.
Well, one of the moments that got me most fired up was actually Veronica, who I love, but, you know, she was so self-congratulatory about this gesture, which was giving Pops back the shop with his fucking name on it.
Yeah,
she's like, I've made you now the owner of your own shop.
Pop's like, I don't know what to say. I was like, yeah, you do, Pop. About time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, thankfully I can stop taking orders from a 17-year-old.
Yeah, and we also see, like, by the end, Jughead was supposed they all made a pact to come together in 1 year, and Jughead's just all by himself. Actually, one thing I found quite funny was, like, Archie asked the military bus to pull over, and, like, surely that's caused a bit of a driving hazard when, like, Archie and Veronica and Betty are just waving in the kind of the car just crashed.
See, yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, I wrote in my notes, like, I kind of wish the episode had ended, like, when they're driving on the wrong side of the road to get Archie's attention, just them getting splattered by an oncoming truck.
Yeah, I know.
Cuts to black, show over.
Yeah, I actually thought the Jughead, it kind of felt like, for me, we talked about a lot before, Callum, haven't we, in the Riverdale reviews about who's the main character, Archie, Jughead, Betty, and Veronica. I've actually had a sort of a wee think about that, and I kind of want to sort of reselect my choice. Actually, I'm not sure it is Archie anymore. I think it is Jughead is the main character now. I have to. He narrates the show, and just the scene at the end where he's the one that waits at Pop's chocolate shop. I just think, I don't know, he felt like the main character now for me. That's how I personally feel.
I think so. Yeah, I think season 4 did try to present that transition, and maybe it's because I think because KJ App is trying to get a career outside of this, they're maybe worried that he was going to bin off the show to, you know, become a bigger star, you know, off the back of the show, you know, go on to be in films. So yeah, maybe there was a bit of concern there, so they wanted to sort of shift the narrative. But yeah, I definitely see that. Yeah. And, you know, we talked about, you know, how Jughead was somehow able to forgive the cheating, but I still find the cheating unforgivable. Like, you know, Archie, you know, before it's ever, you know, revealed to Jughead, Archie, you know, initiated this plan to return in a year, and he was planning to look Jughead in the eyes every year thereon. You know, the person that, you know, he betrayed the most, really, because that was his childhood friend.
Yeah.
You know, his girlfriend, you know, he'd had you know, a girlfriend of 2 years, but this was a friend of, you know, 10 years or so.
Yeah.
And, you know, he was planning to do that, and I just think that's despicable.
It is. No, it absolutely is. Like, the scene where they're just alone on the bench and Jughead just accepts it. Like, I'm fair play to Jughead, to be honest, but I don't know, that whole scene, it felt really out of place when Archie's just on the military bus and he just asked him to pull over. Like, I'm surprised he did, actually. I thought it was going to say the military guy's just like, no way, and this drives on. And just Archie's face is just like in the on the glass, just pressed up against it. I don't know, but yeah, I suppose, but like for me, for the futures of season 5 and going into season 6, it does kind of feel like an end of an era as Riverdale as we know it. Like it feels like it's going to be a lot more grown up, uh, which feels weird to say in a Riverdale review, but it feels like it's going to go away from like the high school dramas and stuff like that. Of course, the actors are pretty much playing the role their own age. KJ Appa's actually playing a character older than himself for a change.
Yeah.
I think KJ Appa's well like 22 only or 21.
Yeah, he'd been being around that, yeah, and he's not going on to 25.
Even in the flashbacks, bud, like he looks really young in the flashbacks, doesn't he? I suppose he's around our age now when he first started, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he was 19 in season 1. So yeah, he'd be around 20, 22, 23.
Yeah.
And I imagine that soon we're going to see pieces of their new lives. But what I really want is a sequence of war with Archie. And we sort of see that teased in the promo, but from what I can tell, that's actually like on the Riverdale High football field. So I think that's some kind of dream sequence of his two lives merging.
Yeah.
What I would have really liked to see was kind of a Punisher season 1 style sequence in Afghanistan, because I think it would have been such a tonal and aesthetic departure from the sort of candy colored like glossiness that we see in the show normally.
I think that's a really smart shout, Callum. Actually, I agree, bud. And I think although the transition from Archie from like innocent music boy / boxer to like a soldier, it's harsh, but I think that's supposed to suggest how he's grown up. Do you know what I mean? And it's interesting to see because Veronica goes out of her way to say like there's a war going on in America, which I find quite interesting, like because there isn't, as far as I know, in real life. So I wonder what they're talking about.
Because we don't really know what year Riverdale is set in. They have modern phones, and they have a certain technology, but it also exists in this sort of sex education. I don't know if you've seen that, but it sort of has.
Yeah, it does.
It's sort of a blend of. It's a blend of America and England, and it's a blend of like now and the past. So Riverdale sort of sits in this like anomalous time zone where you don't really know when it's meant to be. Yeah. So it really could be any like combat that they're referencing, really.
It does actually. It kind of seems like to me sort of like a 60s or 70s, just around the time of the comic books, really, but like with modern technology. So I don't know, but like in regards to like hopes for my hopes for the season, I really hope it doesn't rush into going back to Riverdale. I do think it will. Like I think next episode it'll be like the only episode where we see their individual lives. I really do.
Oh, I don't even think that'll last the whole episode.
No,
I think Archie comes back immediately.
Yeah, I don't know. I always felt like we kind of set off pod. Like imagine if Luke Perry hadn't sadly passed away in real life, like where the Archie character would have went. It's interesting to see. I always felt like they were going to go down the music road or something like that, or like you said, Andrew's construction, where he's the only one that stays in Riverdale. But now because he's left and things like that, do you think Jughead will hold a grudge for the crew not meeting them in 1 year? Like, do you think that'll be a source of conflict?
Well, I don't think so, because this isn't exactly the biggest betrayal he's had to deal with in even this episode.
Yeah, that's true.
I really don't think teenagers are this forgiving. Archie deserves a punch in the face. Like once again, like all the forgiveness and scarce mentions, of the cheating. I think it's mentioned 2 or 3 times in this, but it really should be the focus of an entire half a season or so.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it should lead to breakups and distrust and I thought that this friendship group was going to be broken up and never be the same again. But I think by next episode they'll be playing happy families again.
Yeah,
I think the creators just realized that they made a mistake with the with the Betty and Archie thing, because they immediately backtracked. That was only last year. I don't think you actually watched the episode where that happens, because it was the musical episode. And I think you said you've never seen a musical episode.
Yeah, I always skip those. And I think you're right, but I think they do want to try to put that under the carpet as quick as they can. And one thing about the future of the show, I do think they're going to try and present that Archie and Veronica do get back together. I really do. It's inevitable. I really think, but I actually think a really point that I would really love to see is if Archie goes away to the military, or Jughead goes away, and they actually meet someone for themselves, and that's like a new character introduced to the show who they just fall in love with, and it's just a new character. Like even for maybe that's what Veronica's doing. Maybe that's going to be a new character of the show, her husband. I doubt it, but because I think Archie and her will get back together in some
Yeah, and
respects.
they've said in the sort of press release for that casting that he's an abusive character. So I think
Oh,
I think
okay.
Archie's going to be her hero, like rescuing her from that marriage.
And on on the sort of subject of returning characters, do you reckon a lot of the parents will return? Because of course here we actually get a reasonably big appearance from Penelope Blossom, who hasn't been seen in the show for a
Mm,
while recently, and she's been in a lot more episodes recently compared to her previous. So I think she could be
yeah,
coming back. I don't think Hermione will be back. I really don't.
no,
Hiram, of course, will be back because I feel like he hasn't got his
yeah.
comeuppance yet, but I can't really tell if they're
It's
going to make him
said
a
for the
serious
next
character.
episode that like Archie comes back and like Riverdale is once again like in Hiram's grip, and I'm sick of it. Like I just want them to retire that character. Like I thought,
Kill him off or
potential.
something. Yeah.
I was like, the show isn't smart enough to just retire that character, but I was just hoping that extended vacation meant he's gone.
Yeah,
But of
I
course
know.
not.
Yeah, I think. Is there any other parent characters you think are gone? Like, do you think Sheriff Keller will come back, or people like that? Who do you reckon is staying and going if we're going to do
I
it?
think so. I think he will because now that he's been reinstated as sheriff, he's a bit more relevant. I think we know that Alice is gone, which sort of does make sense because she stayed in Riverdale. If you really want to get rid of that actress, surely have her realize that she wants to leave with FP. Surely that
Yeah,
makes the most sense if you want to
agreed.
do a double hander of getting rid of them. So there, I think she's maybe sticking around until the mid season. But she'll be gone soon enough. I think they're going to keep Molly Ringwald around, as Archie's mom, because let's be
She's
honest,
fantastic. She's
she's
fantastic.
very famous. But I don't think, aside from the kissing booth, I haven't seen her in anything recently. So I think she can stick around in Riverdale for a little while longer, and her character is getting a bit more interesting. They've given her a new romantic interest after the death of Fred Andrews. So I think there's a bit of development that's possible there. So I think we'll see more of her.
One thing I love about Riverdale, man, is the whole variety of characters. Like when you said characters, everybody they just brought to my mind like Polly and that storyline, and people like in the town, like the dude who does like the dead bodies in the morgue. I can't remember what his name is. Like people like that. Like there's so many characters that I just I just love that universe. Like there's so many characters in there that it's so such a deep and rich and diverse universe where it's just so many places you can go. I mean, you've got Josie and the Pussycats, Valerie, characters like that from early seasons. I mean, I just really love it, man. I really do love this show. To be honest, I know we've laughed at it and stuff, but this episode really did feel like an end of an era to me. Like I got a little bit emotional,
Yeah,
especially with the Luke Perry flashbacks when so I actually think like the Luke Perry death was one of the celebrity deaths. Like it actually did hit me a little bit. Like I don't, it's not often that I get like that with celebrity deaths because there's not a lot of celebrities
yeah.
where I can like sort of,
And you're usually detached from them.
yeah.
You
But
see
look,
them, but you don't know them.
yeah, but because we were so used to watching Luke Perry on our screens every week, it really did hit me. And I don't know, it was. I think the show really has respectfully dealt with that character in a great way, to be honest, for the most part.
Yeah, I think how did you feel about we talked about the opening of season 4. I think at some point
Yeah.
how that season opens with the dealing of his death. And how did you feel about that? Because he dies in I don't know. It was a heroic manner in that he stopped to help someone. It was a noble thing. But I feel like he's almost a character like Michael Corleone, which we reference, where we would like to see him go out guns blazing.
Yeah.
I feel like
Yes. Yes. I know what you
Fred
mean.
Andrew. I feel like of course we couldn't see anything because unfortunately Luke Perry had passed away in real life, so that it did have to be explained off screen. Do you think that was the best they could have done?
I think given the circumstances, probably yeah. Under the short time they could have written that, I excuse me, man. Sorry. I really do miss Luke Perry in the show. I really, really do. Like the flashbacks actually got me a little bit emotional actually because you see Archie's looking at everyone, and everyone's got their parents there, and his dad's missing, and Fred was always a big part of that show from the early days. With and yeah, I don't know. I really there's characters in this show like I really wish that they could bring back, and because this sort of was a conclusion of the high school story, it did sort of emotionally hit me actually because there's a lot of characters we'll probably never really see again, and because we're getting into the later seasons now where a TV show it's kind of a rare if a TV show lasts past 5 seasons nowadays. So I kind of feel like we're sort of past the midpoint of Riverdale, and we're sort of getting to that stage where it's going to be winding down a little bit, and we'll not probably see it on our screens for much longer. So I'm really trying to appreciate it as much as I can, even though we like to make fun of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And like one thing which we would probably normally make fun of, which is the character of Cheryl. I think we have to pay some respect to Madeline Pesh and Vanessa Morgan in this episode, because the dialogue is a given that it's dreadful. Let's be honest. But the scene in which Cheryl and Tony break up, I think the performances in that scene are actually the best we've seen from them.
Yeah, I mean, the actress who plays Cheryl Madeline, like, she's absolutely incredible. Like, I think she is really good. She actually does YouTube videos as well. I didn't discover the other day.
Yeah, I've seen a few with like with their fellow castmates.
Yeah, I know, and yeah, I mean, I hope like Cheryl stays around. I really do. I think that was a really well acted scene. You're right. I hope Pop stays around. I know there's a plot line regarding his daughter or granddaughter or something. So I hope they don't like kill him off or something in the 7-year time jump. It wouldn't surprise me if they do that, though. To be honest, I really hope.
I feel like that's probably going to be another potential romantic interest for Archie, because like just anytime they get any single young woman, top shagger, yeah, it is just Archie is given that person is a romantic interest usually.
Have you seen his new haircut?
Archie's.
Yeah, it's so weird.
I saw the promo.
It's so strange. Like, it brings me back to old days, Archie. Good old days, the golden days. But
because it's short, but not in like a razored on the back and sides kind of way. It's just like it comes up weirdly high on his head.
It's so short. Yeah, it's so weird. But yeah, man, I really hope we see more of Reggie this season and moving into season 6. Like, I'm gonna be like, surely the mystery for season 5 to bring them all back to Riverdale, it has to be the most severe one yet. Like, it has to be the most sinister, you'd think. Like,
I don't know that it's a mystery whatsoever. Like, I think it's literally just that Hiram has control over it again.
Dude, there's something that always sticks in my head though about what was his name who ran the farm, who Alice killed or supposedly killed?
Edgar.
Something doesn't sit right about me with that death, because he's never seen that death's never shown on screen. It's not something doesn't sit right with me with that. I'm telling you.
Oh no, you do see his death on screen.
Do you?
Yeah, Alice shot him in the gut.
Oh, what death am I thinking of then? I may be getting him confused with someone else, but I don't know. There's something I think will bring them all back together. Maybe be it Hiram, but I hope it's not Hiram. But I don't know. Yeah.
I'm just thinking to the the episode in season 3 where it's revealed that like Penelope was the Gargoyle King, and like she was rocking around in that like big suit, and then she's like teamed up with the Black Hood, and then she kills him. It was so funny.
Do you reckon they're gonna try and make like, obviously Hiram's had his good days and bad days in the show. Mark Consuelos is one of my favorites in the show actually as an actor, but I think I'm not sure if the show's trying to make him the villain or a hero. And same with Penelope. Like, Penelope's been very nice recently. I actually do think they're trying to make Penelope a bit of a heartwarming character again. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that a lot of these characters don't work well as villains because they're so charismatic and charming. Like, I think Hal was a perfect villain because he was a dickhead right from the start, so he was a very believable serial killer. I think Penelope also seems like a sort of a toxic mother, so like it wasn't out of the realm of possibilities. But like, I don't know, Hiram, I just feel I think he's so charming that he just can't be a criminal forever. Like, I feel like if he had come back from his from his extended vacation and become a legitimate businessman, I feel like his presence in the show would be a lot more like eye roll inducing. I think it would be just an enjoyable performance, where he's just Veronica's dad, and we can move past, what we'd seen before. Of course we can get used to the fact that he's, a character who used to be evil and now he's great, but I think it's better than, just rehashing like, who can we make a villain that we've already had a villain again? Let's just pump out the same old shit. Like, I would have loved to see, just him being a charming man. That's all I want to see from him.
Agreed. And I suppose because this wraps up Riverdale as we know it, bud, I want to ask you, like, out of all the characters in Riverdale, who would be your favorite out of all of them in the high school sort of section of it, seasons 1 to 5? Because I suppose this really does wrap up Riverdale as we know it, kind of end of an era. So who'd be your favorite and least favorite?
I think Veronica was rocky to begin with, but I really want her, especially in the latest seasons. The fact that she's able to balance schoolwork and her multiple businesses. Her relationship with Hiram is the only thing that I think lets her down a bit. But I think she is the only character that has remained. She's the one that I believe would live in real life. I feel like I could know this kind of person.
Yeah.
I think she is the most pleasant. Betty, like, I honestly she is so unpleasant. Archie is very pleasant, but he's made a lot of mistakes, and I will continue to judge him for some moral decisions. Jughead's perfectly admirable, just a bit annoying. I think he's probably not given the best dialogue, and I think the worst person when it comes to dialogue who's handed that is Veronica, and I think Camila Mendes does the best with what she's given.
Fantastic, yeah.
So I really love that character.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think for me, Veronica and Archie are my favorite. I really do like Archie, even though he's made some dodgy decisions. Like, I don't know, something about him I really do quite like. I really like Reggie as well. Pop. I just like all of them. There's not really a character. I just love this show so much, man. Oh, I really do. Especially this episode really made me think. Like, I really do like it. I don't feel bad making fun of it because like it's not good TV for the most part.
I mean, even the cast say it's not good.
Yeah.
Like if you watch any video of like Lily Reinhart is like they never objectively say wow, this is shit, but like they'll talk about like they'll be told like they'll be asked like trivial questions about like what's coming next in the next season, and you can just see they're all like rolling their eyes like, oh, for fuck's sake, do we really have to talk about this?
Yeah.
So I mean, none of them think that they're making good television, but they're making entertainment. It's like reality TV. No one thinks that that's quality. It's a guilty pleasure.
Yeah, the show really came around in my life at a really important time. Like I remember watching it between year 12 and year 13, and like I don't know,
I was becoming a man, and Archie made me what I am.
Archie's abs. Do you know what I mean? It inspired me. But no, like I will miss it when it's not on our screens anymore. But luckily, we've got another 1.5 seasons to go that are confirmed at least. So hey, we're not at the end yet. But have you got any more points in this Riverdale episode, man?
Nothing else for me, Matthew.
So it's been a long one. This might end up being, I think it's a podcast, but I'm not even going to lie to you. I think it's
just
been a
please,
podcast.
No.
I think
like,
to be fair,
at
least this is a big episode that it's like, I could just title it like the end of Riverdale as we know it, clickbait. So
yeah.
But what would you rate it out of 10, mate?
So I really enjoyed this episode. As you said, it did feel like the end of an era. It felt like this really great culmination, and I would have been satisfied with this as the last episode of Riverdale ever, I think. With a few minor tweaks, I think it being the last ever, and it not really giving the time to sort of, in my mind, morally absolve Archie and Betty. I feel like I need that before I'm fully satisfied. But I think with a bit of an extra runtime would have been the perfect culmination of the entire series. So I really did love it on that fact. In the it does act as a pivot point for the rest of the show. With the now 7 years later. I'm just concerned about the future because I am worried they're going to peddle like the same cliches that we've seen the last few years. They're obviously dialing down the cringe, but then what happens if you've dialed down the cringe and they're doing the same cliches?
It's not a good mix,
and it's not even funny. It's just, this is bad. I really hope that they don't go down that road. I really hope either it needs to be good quality television or it needs to be terrible and hilarious.
Agreed.
But if it's terrible and not funny, it's just gonna be a slog.
Yeah.
So I'm not optimistic for the future of the show, but this episode I think was fantastic. I would give it, of course, I'm always rating it in the context of Riverdale, so I'm giving it in the context of Riverdale, not in the context of television. But I would give it a 9 out of 10.
Lovely, mate. I think Riverdale's the only show where it doesn't feel like 40 minutes. It feels like 20 minutes an episode. Like I'm not engaged in it. I think an hour-long episode I would absolutely love. I think if this was an hour-long finale episode ever, like it would be great. But that being said, yeah, I think you're right, buddy. One of my favorite episode of this. It's funny, but every episode this season has just gotten better. This one is also a 9 for me. Really emotional flashbacks with Fred Andrews as well. I love that Jughead sort of moved into Archie's house and stuff like that. By the end, that was really, really sweet and yeah, maybe a bit illegal actually. But yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. 100%.
But yeah, I mean, a really nice conclusion of the high school journey. 9 out of 10. But yeah, stay tuned next week, guys, where it'll probably be another podcast length episode because I'd imagine there'll be a lot to talk about. But yeah, next week, Riverdale season 5, episode 4.
And Cash was worried we wouldn't have enough to say week to week.
What's he like, this silly goose? Anyway, Cash is more than welcome to come on for that episode. I'd imagine I don't know if he's busy, but if that'll be it depends. Like if that's a big episode plot wise, I'm sure you'll watch it. And he might be wanting to come on. I don't know, but anyway, yeah. Hope you guys are all safe and well. Be your family and friends well, safe and well. Take care, everyone, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.